In Nepal, thousands of young people, mostly Gen Z, took to the streets after the government banned 26 social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp and X. The ban, announced by Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's government, was meant to force these platforms to register with authorities. But for students and young activists, it felt like censorship and an attack on free speech. What began online quickly turned into massive street protests across Kathmandu and other major cities. Students in uniforms marched with flags and banners reading, "Shut down corruption, not social media." Under huge pressure, the government backtracked and lifted the ban. Nepal's Home Minister even resigned, taking moral responsibility for the crackdown. The ban was intended to force platforms to register for a license and appoint representatives to handle user complaints. However, this move sent shockwaves across the country, affecting the tourism industry and the communication of millions of Nepalis with family members abroad. On September 8th, tens of thousands of people, mostly Gen Z youth, took to the streets in the capital, Kathmandu. They protested against the ban and government corruption, carrying slogans such as "Give us back our voice" and "Say no to corruption." The demonstration turned violent when the crowd tried to storm the parliament building. Riot police initially used tear gas and water cannons, but were overwhelmed in numbers. Since last weekend, TikTok users in Nepal began sharing viral videos contrasting ordinary people's struggles with the lavish lifestyles of politicians' children. Unlike other social media platforms, TikTok was not banned, making it a key outlet for dissent. The Kathmandu Post noted that the crisis is not only about social media, but also about trust, corruption, and a generation refusing to stay silent. For Gen Z, who grew up with smartphones, global trends, and promises of a prosperous Nepal, digital freedom equals personal freedom. Cutting off access felt like silencing an entire generation. Protesters surrounded Parliament, tearing down barricades and forcing riot police to retreat inside. Security forces initially used tear gas and water cannons, but were vastly outnumbered. In the end, police opened fire on the crowd, turning the protest into one of Nepal's darkest tragedies. Protesters surrounded Nepal's parliament, broke through barricades, and forced riot police to retreat inside the building. Police initially deployed tear gas and water cannons, but were overwhelmed, eventually opening fire on the crowd. According to Kantipur, Dr. Badri Rizal confirmed that 7 people died at Bir Hospital in Kathmandu, while 4 more deaths were reported at civil and KMC hospitals. At least 58 others are being treated for injuries. As unrest escalated, the government declared a curfew around Parliament, government offices, the presidential palace, and other key areas of the capital. Authorities said they had repeatedly asked about 20 major social media platforms to register, but those that refused were blocked last week. Only TikTok, Viber, and 3 other platforms complied and continue to operate without disruption in Nepal. The unrest is the worst in decades in the poor Himalayan country, which is wedged between India and China and has struggled with political and economic instability since protests led to the abolition of its monarchy in 2008. Young Nepalese have for years been frustrated at the lack of jobs, and millions have gone to work in the Middle East, South Korea and Malaysia, mainly on construction sites, from where they send money home.